So, as of the new update, I'm pretty sure we're all aware that Russia really isn't it right now. And this is down to multiple things. Mainly due to the fact that the R77 isn't anywhere as good as the AIM-120, and some people like to argue that, well, perhaps that's realistic, because, I mean, let's be honest, we expected all the NATO AMRAAM carrying platforms to do better against the Russian Fox 3 carriers, but the issue it comes when the discrepancy is that big, especially considering that this is the initial variants of said Fox 3s. Some people like to argue the case that the AIM-120 is overperforming, or that the R77 is underperforming, where I don't really know which one is true or not, personally. The AIM-120 is definitely the best BVR missile in the game, though, by far, because it just sustains its energy pretty well, and it actually tracks. The R77 seems to do neither of those things. So Russia is in a pretty poor spot, because not only do they have, well, now inferior weapons, they also still have inferior flight models. And before this update, I was of the understanding, I was like, okay, now they're going to add AMRAAMs, they must surely fix the flight model of the MiG-29 and the Su27, right? Well, they still haven't done that. I don't know whether it's because nobody has filed a bug report, but please, for the love of God, somebody needs to do that. But yeah. So in this video, I'm going to show you. I'm in this video. I'm just going to basically show you the flight performance kind of things, like, because I've actually managed to get some kind of like my own evidence. I managed to test it by myself, but bear in mind this might not be entirely true, because this is the first time I've actually done something like this. If you want to watch a more like in-depth video, I really recommend you watch Squishface's video on what's going on with the flankers flight model. The reason why I'm doing this was because that video was actually quite some time ago now, and now that Fox 3s are in the game, I think it's time that we actually dive into the issues that really hold back Russia. So, like I said, let's get into the flight model testing. So, according to the flight manual, I'm supposed to be getting 22 degrees per second at 600 kilometers an hour. Well, as you can see in this clip, I'm not really getting that. Now, you may argue, well, you're not pulling really that many Gs, but the issue is I'm trying to maintain 600 kilometers. If I pull any harder than this, I'm going to basically fall out of the sky. So I'm basically rating nowhere near as fast as I should be, and as you can see, like I'm trying my best to stay at like 600 kilometers, but I'm just like, the highest I'm getting is just around 18.1, around 17 to 18, and I hit 19, but I do pull a lot of Gs. I shave off a lot of speed because of that. So it's very obvious that at lower speeds, the flanker is just missing flight performance. It's missing a lot of sustained turn, and it just can't maintain its energy as well as it should be able to, really. Now, in this clip, we are at a higher altitude, still a clean flanker. What we're trying to test is the sustained turn rate at 900 kilometers, or 850 to 900 kilometers. And according to the flight manual, we should be getting around 18.2 degrees per second. But as you can see here, the only time that we get 18.2 degrees seconds at this speed is when we pull, like, it's basically when you max perform on the G overload, and obviously bleeding a lot of speed. But as you can see, we're not really achieving that. We're not really achieving 18.2 degrees unless we like go into a massive deep like dive and then you start pulling hard. But around the 800 mark, we're getting around like 16.5 to like 17.5 roughly. This is me trying my best to keep it in those speed ranges. Like I said, it's because I'm not on joystick. There's only so much I can do in mouse and keyboard with sim controls. But like so I'm getting around about 16.5 without pulling so many Gs. And then my final test is in realistic. Obviously, like I said before, it's realistic. You can't really well, it's kind of funny because it's in the name. Realistic isn't actually very realistic because you're always putting full deflector when you're turning. So the issue with that is you can't really get an accurate measurement of sustained turn rate, because when you try to turn, your pilot basically pulls as hard as he can, and he basically just bleeds all the AOA. But even in realistic, you can see that we are nowhere near where our supposed turn rate. We're like absolutely nowhere near it. So this kind of just proves that, like, and this is just me just trying to stay in the sustained speed, like the sustained turn rate, like the speed, and trying to get the degrees per second without falling out the sky. Because people would be like, well, you're not, I'm sure if you pulled a little bit harder, you can get 18.2 degrees second. I could, for about, not 18.2 degrees second, this is like 600 kilometers, we're trying to get like 20 degrees per second. I mean, I could, if I pulled extremely hard and it basically just fell out the sky, because the whole point of these tests is to see whether these aircraft in game, well, whether the flanker in game can actually like turn at 600 kilometers and get its like supposed degrees per second. And by the way, just to note, these tests were done without afterburner. I did this purely because it didn't specify on the flight manual. So I just wanted to see what it could do without the extra oomph from the engines. That's my reason why, like, you're probably wondering you never went into the web. That's my reasoning why. Whether I'm supposed to do that, I'm not sure. Very sorry if I am supposed to. Like I said, it's my first time actually doing like an investigative kind of video. But as we can see, like, so far, the flanker is actually missing, is essentially just missing low speed performance. And at higher speeds, it does tend to brick up. I haven't got footage of that, but like, there's loads of like people. There's literally loads of videos where you can see that for yourself. I'm specifically talking about, well, I've only basically shown you the low speed performance, which is quite lacking. And it's very evident because we were missing like quite a few degrees of our sustained turn. Look, just because the flanker is a super maneuverable aircraft when it wants to be, doesn't mean that it can't maintain energy. Because in DCS, and people will be like, oh, hang on, why are you comparing DCS to War Thunder? DCS isn't some kind of Bible. Let me tell you something. DCS is far more realistic than War Thunder. So, going off the flight models, comparing the flight models to DCS to War Thunder, I don't think it's that bad of an idea. Because if you're trying to achieve realism, DCS is where you want to go. Even though it still has issues of its own. But still, in DCS, the flight model for the flanker is much more accurate, obviously. But the thing is, you can actually energy fight with the flanker in DCS. In War Thunder, you really can't. Because, especially when you're comparing it to something like the F-15, because people don't realize that the F-15 and the flanker are actually very similar in terms of performance. In a two-circle, the flanker only outperforms, I mean, it's only being outperformed by the F-15 by a few degrees. It's not as if it's massively it will be outrated, don't get me wrong, but it's not, the margins aren't that big. But I digress. Some people think because it's super maneuverable, it just can't maintain energy, and that's not true. What I'm showing you here is the flanker is just underperforming. So, yeah. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you guys later. Have a good day.